Before your feet touch the floor, before the world asks anything of you, pause. This moment, right here, between sleep and waking, is powerful. Your mind is open, your body is listening. What you choose to say now becomes the tone your entire day answers to. Most mornings, the first thought is not gentle. It's a worry, a memory, a quiet rush of pressure. You may not even notice it anymore. It feels normal. But that single thought sets everything in motion, and it's why so many days feel heavy before they even begin. You don't need more discipline. You don't need to fix your life at sunrise. You need one calm instruction spoken with kindness. Peace does not arrive later in the day. It is either invited in the beginning or it must fight to be heard. Think about how your body wakes up. Tight jaw, shallow breath, a sense of bracing. That is not how you were meant to begin. Your body responds instantly to your inner voice. When the voice softens, the body follows. Relief comes faster than you expect. Here is something rarely taught. The morning mind accepts repetition as truth. Whatever you tell it about safety, worth, or time, it believes you. That's why rushing thoughts multiply stress. And it's why calm words, repeated gently, reorganize your entire nervous system. If you've ever tried affirmations and felt nothing, listen closely. The words didn't fail you. They were simply spoken too quickly, too forcefully, or without permission to land. Peace requires presence, not performance. Imagine beginning the day without arguing with yourself. No mental list of what's wrong. No pressure to be different. Just a quiet agreement with life that says, I am safe to begin. That agreement changes how the world meets you. There is a cost to skipping this. When mornings start in tension, the body carries it all day. Decisions feel harder, reactions sharper. But when the day begins calmly, even challenges arrive with less weight. You respond instead of react. Listen as though your cells are listening too. The body learns peace through repetition, one phrase at a time, one breath at a time, spoken not to control the day, but to cooperate with it. These affirmations are not meant to convince you. They are meant to remind you of safety, of worth, of the quiet truth that you do not have to earn peace before noon. It is available now. Stay here. Let the noise wait. Let the world come later. Begin the day the way your body has always asked you to, calmly, kindly, and on your own side. I wish to begin with the most important act a person performs each day, though it is rarely recognized as such. Before effort, before conversation, before responsibility, there is a moment when the mind is most impressionable and most obedient. That moment is the beginning of the day. Whoever governs his mind at that hour governs, in large measure, the direction and quality of the hours that follow. Most people surrender this moment unconsciously. They awaken and allow the mind to wander at will, revisiting yesterday's disappointments, anticipating today's burdens, or borrowing trouble from events that have not yet occurred. This surrender feels harmless because it is habitual, yet it is costly, for the first thought sets the tone, and the tone becomes the ruling influence. I have observed that men and women who accomplish much do not leave this moment to chance. They may not announce what they are doing, and they may not even use formal language to describe it, but they assume command of their thinking before the day assumes command of them. This single habit separates those who move deliberately through life from those who are carried along by circumstance. To begin the day in command of one's own mind does not require force, it requires decision. The decision to choose one's mental posture rather than inherit it from memory or fear. When a person makes this decision consistently, mornings cease to feel heavy. Energy gathers instead of scattering. Attention sharpens, judgment improves. Consider Andrew Carnegie, who rose from modest beginnings to immense responsibility. Those who knew him remarked upon his calm manner and deliberate thought, especially early in the day. He did not allow the weight of obligation to invade his mind before he had first ordered it. He knew that confusion at dawn multiplied itself by nightfall. This practice saves years of life that would otherwise be lost to emotional reaction. A man who begins each day reacting must later recover from his own reactions. A man who begins in command moves forward without the cost of repair. Over 10 years, this difference is immense. Over 20, it is decisive. Over 30, it is the difference between mastery and regret. When a person governs his morning mind, others notice without being told. His speech is steadier. His decisions are firmer. He appears reliable, not because he predicts outcomes, but because he does not panic when outcomes are uncertain. People trust such a person instinctively. Opportunities follow trust. The law behind this is simple. The subconscious mind accepts the first strong impression of the day as instruction. Whatever is impressed at that hour tends to guide conduct, attitude, and expectancy until it is replaced. If the first instruction is fear, the day answers fear. If it is calm authority, the day answers accordingly. Many people attempt to correct a troubled day later through effort alone. They work harder, argue more, push themselves further, yet the foundation was laid incorrectly. To begin in command is to lay a foundation that requires less correction. Here is the affirmation that establishes this command. It is not a plea, nor a wish. It is an instruction spoken quietly and with authority. I begin this day in command of my own mind. These words should be spoken slowly, before the body rises, while the mind is still open. Repetition is essential. Not repetition with excitement, but repetition with calm certainty. The subconscious mind responds to familiarity more readily than to force. As this affirmation is practiced, a subtle change takes place. The individual no longer feels ambushed by the day. Tasks appear manageable. Delays do not provoke agitation. Even difficulty feels less personal. This is not because difficulty has vanished, but because command has been established. Men who neglect this practice often believe life is unfair to them. In truth, they have allowed the most powerful moment of the day to pass unguarded. They spend the remaining hours compensating for a lack of early direction. This compensation costs time, energy, and hope. The man who begins the day in command does not require perfect conditions. He requires only discipline of thought. That discipline, once formed, becomes habit. Habit, once established, becomes character. Character, once recognized, attracts cooperation. This is how years are saved, not through haste, but through order, not through struggle, but through command. When the mind is governed at the outset, the day unfolds with less friction and greater purpose. Remember this: the world does not decide how you begin your day, you do. And the decision you make in those first moments quietly determines whether the day works against you or with you. Begin, therefore, in command. I wish now to speak of the habit that most often steals peace from the beginning of the day, even among capable and well-intentioned people. This habit is the quiet admission of fear and hurry before a single task has been met. Fear does not always arrive loudly. More often, it enters as pressure, as a sense of being late, or as the belief that the day must be rushed in order to be survived. When this belief is accepted at dawn, the entire day moves under strain. Many people awaken already bracing themselves. Their thoughts rush ahead of their bodies. They measure the hours before they have lived them. This habit feels practical, even responsible, yet it is neither. It scatters attention and weakens judgment. A hurried mind cannot think clearly, and a fearful mind cannot choose wisely. Both conditions shorten the usefulness of a day. The men and women who have made the greatest use of their lives learned early that fear and haste are false counselors. They understood that no good decision is improved by panic, and no worthy task is completed more skillfully when rushed. They chose, therefore, to welcome the day without fear or hurry, regardless of what awaited them. I have observed that men such as Henry Ford approach their mornings with deliberation rather than urgency. Even during periods of difficulty, they did not allow the mind to race ahead of the facts. They understood that clarity comes from calm, not from speed. By beginning the day unhurried, they preserve the ability to think when others could not. Fear, when admitted early, multiplies itself. A small uneasiness becomes irritation. Irritation becomes error. Error invites further fear. Thus, a single anxious thought at dawn can cost hours of correction by nightfall. Repeated over years, this habit consumes an astonishing amount of life. Hurry produces a similar effect. A hurried person appears busy but accomplishes little of lasting value. He overlooks detail, misses opportunity, and exhausts himself unnecessarily. Those who live long and accomplish much move with rhythm rather than rush. Rhythm conserves strength. Rush dissipates it. When a person welcomes the day calmly, others sense it almost immediately. His movements are purposeful rather than frantic. His speech is measured. He listens before responding. People feel safe placing responsibility in his hands because he does not add confusion to difficulty. This practice saves time in ways that are not immediately visible. Decisions made calmly require fewer revisions. Words spoken without fear require fewer apologies. Actions taken deliberately require less recovery. Over 10 years, this economy is profound. Over 20, it determines reputation. Over 30, it determines legacy. To welcome the day without fear or hurry is not to deny responsibility. It is to meet responsibility with strength intact. Fear weakens before it begins. Calm strengthens before effort is required. The difference is decisive. Here is the affirmation that establishes this posture at the beginning of the day. It is not spoken to persuade the world, but to instruct the mind. I welcome this day without fear or hurry. Speak it slowly before movement begins. Allow the words to settle. The subconscious mind responds not to speed, but to tone. A calm tone invites calm response. As this affirmation is practiced, mornings take on a different quality. Time seems less hostile. Tasks no longer crowd one another. Even when the day is full, it feels ordered rather than oppressive. This is not illusion. It is the natural result of removing fear and haste from the governing position. Those who neglect this practice often believe they must rush because life demands it. In truth, life demands clarity, not panic. The man who rushes all morning spends the afternoon repairing his own haste. The man who begins calmly moves forward without repair. Remember this well. Fear and hurry do not make you effective. They make you reactive. Effectiveness belongs to those who can think while others are pressed. By welcoming the day calmly, you reclaim not only peace, but time itself. And time, once reclaimed, is the greatest ally any person can possess. I wish now to speak of a misunderstanding that quietly robs people of peace and wastes more useful hours than almost any other habit of thought. This misunderstanding concerns time itself. Many people begin the day as though time were an enemy, something that must be fought, chased, or conquered. From this false assumption arises tension, impatience, and the sense of always being behind. A mind at war with time cannot be at peace. Those who live long and accomplish much come to a different understanding. They recognize that time has an order, and that this order cannot be improved by anxiety. They do not ask time to hurry. They arrange themselves to work within its rhythm. This single adjustment restores calm to the beginning of the day and clarity to everything that follows. Most people believe they lack time when, in truth, they lack order. They attempt to crowd thought, decision, and action into the same moment. The result is confusion. Confusion slows progress far more than delay ever could. A man who is at peace with time moves steadily, and steadiness outpaces hurry over the course of years. I have observed that men of achievement trusted time because they trusted themselves to use it wisely. They did not attempt to do everything at once. They chose what belonged to the moment and dismissed the rest. This habit gave them composure in the morning and authority throughout the day. Consider Thomas Edison, whose work required patience beyond what most men could endure. He did not quarrel with time when experiments failed. He did not demand that discovery occur on schedule. He accepted the order of the process and arranged his effort accordingly. This acceptance did not slow him. It allowed him to persist without exhaustion. A person who is at peace with time does not borrow trouble from later hours. He does not live the morning in anticipation of the afternoon or the evening in regret of the morning. He lives where he is. This practice preserves strength. Strength preserved becomes judgment. Judgment becomes effectiveness. Others notice this quality immediately. A person who is not hurried by time listens more carefully. He decides more accurately. He does not appear pressed or flustered. People trust him with matters that require discretion because he does not rush conclusions. Time, to such a person, becomes an ally rather than a threat. The habit of struggling against time shortens life in subtle ways. It increases strain, invites error, and creates unnecessary conflict. Over 10 years, this habit consumes countless hours in correction. Over 20, it shapes reputation. Over 30, it determines whether life feels rich or depleted. To be at peace with time is not to waste it. It is to respect it. Respect leads to order. Order leads to calm. Calm leads to accurate action. Accurate action multiplies results without multiplying effort. Here is the affirmation that establishes this relationship at the beginning of the day. I am at peace with time and its order. These words should be spoken without argument. The mind may resist at first, especially if it has been trained to hurry. Repetition softens resistance. Calm repetition instructs the subconscious mind to release urgency. As this affirmation becomes habitual, you will notice that the day unfolds differently. There is less inner argument about what must be done first. Choices become clearer. Tasks fall into sequence. Even when demands are many, the mind remains composed. Those who do not practice this habit often believe that peace with time means resignation. It does not. It means cooperation. Cooperation with time allows you to move efficiently without friction. Friction wastes more hours than rest ever will. When the morning begins with peace toward time, the entire day benefits. You no longer feel chased. You no longer feel delayed. You feel placed where you are meant to act next. This sense of placement saves years that would otherwise be lost to strain. It allows effort to accumulate rather than scatter. And accumulation, not speed, is what builds a life of lasting usefulness. Remember this, time is not something to overcome. It is something to work with. When you accept its order at the beginning of the day, you free yourself from one of the greatest sources of unnecessary pressure. Begin, therefore, at peace with time. The hours will respond accordingly. I wish now to speak of the quiet influence that shapes nearly every encounter a person has during the day, though few ever recognize it as a force they can direct. I speak of expectation, not expectation as hope or wish, but expectation as the silent conclusion the mind reaches before evidence appears. Whatever you expect when the day begins tends to meet you repeatedly, not because the world conspires, but because the mind prepares itself to recognize and confirm what it assumes. Most people begin the day expecting resistance. They anticipate difficulty, disagreement, delay, or disappointment. This expectation often feels prudent, even wise, yet it places the mind in a defensive posture before a single event has occurred. Defense narrows perception. A defensive mind overlooks opportunity and exaggerates obstacle. Thus, the day answers exactly as expected. The men and women who experience fair treatment from life more often than others are not those to whom life is kinder, but those who assume cooperation unless proven otherwise. They do not deny difficulty, but they do not expect hostility. This expectation alters tone, expression, and response in ways that invite fairness. I have observed that men such as Andrew Carnegie approached business and human dealings with an assumption of mutual benefit. He expected fairness, and because he conducted himself accordingly, fairness met him more often than chance would explain. Those who met him felt respected before being judged. Respect invites cooperation. Expectation is powerful because it directs attention. A man who expects conflict notices offense. A man who expects fairness notices possibility. Over years, this difference compounds into entirely different lives. One feels continually wronged, the other feels continually assisted. Others respond quickly to expectation, though they may not know why. When you expect fair treatment, you listen rather than brace. You speak clearly rather than defensively. People sense this and respond in kind. Fairness is often reciprocal before it is moral. This practice saves years of emotional friction. A man who expects hostility spends his days defending himself. A man who expects fairness spends his days building. Over 10 years, the difference is enormous. Over 20, it defines character. Over 30, it defines the kind of world one inhabits. To expect the day to meet you fairly is not naivete. It is confidence in your ability to respond wisely. Even when fairness is not immediately present, the expectation prevents bitterness from taking root. Bitterness consumes more time and energy than injustice ever could. Here is the affirmation that establishes this expectation at the beginning of the day. I expect this day to meet me fairly, and I conduct myself with fairness in return. These words should be spoken calmly, without insistence. They are not a demand. They are a declaration of posture. The subconscious mind accepts posture readily. As this affirmation becomes habitual, mornings take on a lighter quality. Encounters feel less threatening. Disagreement feels manageable. You are less inclined to interpret delay as disrespect or difficulty as rejection. This preserves peace and strengthens judgment. Those who neglect this practice often believe the world is against them. In truth, they have trained themselves to expect opposition and have learned to find it everywhere. Expectation is not a passive state. It is an instruction issued daily. When you begin the day expecting fairness, you invite cooperation. When you invite cooperation, life responds more often than not. And even when it does not, you remain composed enough to act intelligently. This is how peace is preserved, not by demanding better treatment, but by choosing the expectation that allows better treatment to appear. Begin the day, therefore, with fair expectation. The day will recognize the tone you set. I wish now to speak of an inner habit that quietly drains more strength from a person than hard labor ever could. This habit is inner resistance, the tendency to argue inwardly with what must be done, with what has appeared, or with what one feels. Many people begin the day already resisting it. They tell themselves they should feel differently, should be further along, should have fewer demands. This silent argument consumes energy before action even begins. Those who live and work with effectiveness do not waste strength in inner quarrel. They may not enjoy every task, but they do not fight its existence. They accept what is before them and reserve their strength for execution. This acceptance is not approval. It is efficiency. Resistance weakens effort. Acceptance concentrates it. I have observed that men of accomplishment move forward without the habit of inward complaint. When obstacles appeared, they addressed them. They did not dramatize them. They did not add emotional weight to practical difficulty. By acting without inner resistance, they preserved clarity and stamina throughout the day. Inner resistance often disguises itself as thoughtfulness or conscience. A person may say he is considering his situation when in truth he is rehearsing reluctance. This rehearsal slows action and creates fatigue that feels mysterious because no work has yet been done. The body tires because the mind is divided. A man who acts without inner resistance begins the day cleanly. His energy flows directly into effort rather than being siphoned off into argument. Decisions are simpler. Movement is steadier. By nightfall, he is tired from use rather than drained from conflict. This difference alone saves years of life. Others notice this quality immediately. A person who does not resist inwardly does not complain outwardly. He appears composed, capable, and dependable. People are drawn to him because he does not complicate what already requires attention. Such individuals are trusted with responsibility because they do not magnify difficulty. Over 10 years, inner resistance steals thousands of hours through hesitation, delay, and emotional recovery. Over 20, it becomes character. Over 30, it determines whether life feels heavy or workable. Resistance does not protect a person. It burdens him. To act without inner resistance does not mean suppressing feeling. It means refusing to let feeling govern action. Feelings pass when they are not argued with. Action remains. Those who master this distinction gain freedom of movement in both mind and body. Here is the affirmation that dissolves resistance at the beginning of the day. I act today without inner resistance. These words should be spoken plainly. Do not attempt to persuade yourself. State them as instruction. The subconscious mind responds to clarity more readily than to emotion. As this affirmation becomes habitual, you will notice that tasks no longer loom. They present themselves plainly. You move toward them rather than circling around them. This directness conserves energy and restores peace. Many people believe peace comes after work is finished. In truth, peace often comes before work begins, when resistance is removed. The man who begins the day without inner resistance moves forward with less effort and greater effectiveness. This practice saves years that would otherwise be spent struggling against oneself. And no struggle wastes more time than that which occurs entirely within the mind. Begin the day, therefore, ready to act without inner quarrel. Action will reward you with clarity, and clarity will preserve your peace. I wish now to speak of the quality that allows a person to meet the unknown without disturbance and to begin the day without the burden of prediction. This quality is trust in one's own capacity to respond. Many people believe confidence comes from knowing what will happen. In truth, lasting confidence comes from knowing that whatever happens can be met with intelligence and composure. Most anxiety at the beginning of the day arises from imagined futures. The mind attempts to solve events that have not yet appeared. This effort is futile and exhausting. Those who live effectively do not attempt to foresee every outcome. They trust their ability to deal with circumstances as they arise. This trust restores calm immediately. I have observed that men who carried great responsibility, men whose decisions affected thousands, did not awaken burdened by anticipation. They trusted their judgment. They trusted their experience. They trusted their capacity to adapt. This trust allowed them to begin each day with steadiness rather than dread. When a person trusts his ability to meet what appears, fear loses its authority. Fear thrives on uncertainty. Trust neutralizes it. Not by denying uncertainty, but by accepting it as natural. Life unfolds one step at a time. The man who accepts this does not borrow fear from later hours. Others sense this trust instinctively. A person who does not fear the unknown does not project tension. He speaks calmly. He listens fully. He does not overreact. People feel reassured in his presence because he is not attempting to control what cannot yet be known. This trust saves enormous time. A man who spends his mornings worrying must later recover from his worry before he can act effectively. A man who trusts his capacity acts immediately when action is required. Over 10 years, this difference is decisive. Over 20, it shapes destiny. Trust in one's ability does not require arrogance. It requires familiarity. Familiarity with one's own judgment, resilience, and adaptability. These qualities are strengthened through use, not contemplation. Each day begun in trust reinforces them. Here is the affirmation that establishes this posture at dawn. I trust my ability to meet whatever appears today. Speak these words slowly. Allow them to replace the urge to predict or control. The subconscious mind responds by relaxing its defenses. As this affirmation becomes habitual, you will notice a reduction in mental noise. Thoughts become simpler. Decisions become clearer. You respond instead of rehearse. This is the natural result of trust replacing anticipation. Those who neglect this practice often believe they are being responsible by worrying. In truth, worry is a misuse of imagination. Responsibility belongs to action, not anticipation. Action taken calmly is always superior to action taken under fear. When the day begins with trust, peace is preserved, even when challenges arise. The mind remains available, judgment remains intact. This availability is the foundation of effectiveness. Begin each day, therefore, trusting your capacity rather than fearing the unknown. The unknown will respond far more kindly to trust than to dread. I wish now to speak of a habit so common that it is rarely questioned, yet it robs people of peace before the day has truly begun. This habit is the tendency to borrow trouble from the future. Many awaken already carrying events that have not occurred, conversations that have not taken place, and outcomes that exist only in imagination. This practice feels like preparation, but it is waste. The future cannot be lived in advance. It can only be met when it arrives. Those who attempt to live it prematurely weaken themselves for the present. The men and women who preserve their strength understand this. They confine their thinking to what can be acted upon now and refuse to give energy to imagined difficulty. I've observed that those who achieve much discipline their minds early in the day by limiting thought to the present hour. They do not deny that the future exists, but they do not allow it to dominate their morning. They know that strength spent too soon is unavailable when truly needed. Borrowed trouble multiplies itself. A single imagined difficulty invites another, until the mind is crowded with events that have no substance. This crowding produces fatigue without effort. The body responds as though danger were real, even when it is not. Thus, peace is lost before the day has offered any cause. Others notice the difference immediately. A person who does not borrow trouble appears grounded. His attention is steady. He does not speak in speculation or alarm. People trust him because he deals with what is real rather than what is feared. Over 10 years, the habit of borrowing trouble costs countless hours of vitality. Over 20, it becomes a pattern of anxiety. Over 30, it shapes health, temperament, and outlook. Few habits shorten life's usefulness more quietly. The remedy is not denial, but discipline. The mind must be trained to recognize when it has wandered into tomorrow without invitation. Each time it does, it must be gently returned to the present. This return restores calm immediately. Here is the affirmation that establishes this discipline at the beginning of the day. I do not borrow trouble from the future. Speak it simply. Do not argue with the mind. Instruction, repeated calmly, is sufficient. The subconscious mind learns boundaries through consistency. As this affirmation becomes familiar, you will notice that mornings feel lighter, thought clears, energy gathers. You are able to act fully where you are, rather than worrying about where you are not. This presence improves judgment and preserves peace. Those who neglect this practice often believe they are being cautious. In truth, they are exhausting themselves unnecessarily. Caution belongs to action. Worry belongs nowhere. When the day begins without borrowed trouble, even difficult hours are met with greater strength. You arrive at them rested rather than depleted. This difference determines whether challenge builds capacity or breaks morale. Begin each day, therefore, resolved to live it once, not in advance, not in imagination, but where your power actually resides. The present moment rewards those who give it their full attention. I wish now to speak of a practice so quietly powerful that it alters the course of a life without drawing attention to itself. This practice is self-approval established before the world offers its opinion. Many people begin the day unconsciously, awaiting judgment, approval from superiors, agreement from others, or confirmation that they are acceptable. This waiting places authority outside the self and weakens initiative before it has a chance to act. Those who accomplish enduring work do not rise in the morning asking whether they will be approved. They rise already approved by themselves. This approval is not vanity, it is authorization. It is the inward consent to act, to decide, and to persist without asking permission from circumstance or opinion. I have observed that men of influence reach this understanding early, sometimes without naming it. They trusted their own judgment sufficiently to proceed even when approval was delayed or withheld. They did not confuse disagreement with disqualification. Because of this, they moved forward while others waited. A man who withholds self-approval waits for signals. He watches faces. He listens for tone. He adjusts himself constantly in search of acceptance. This adjustment consumes energy and produces uncertainty. Over time, it teaches the mind to doubt its own direction. Doubt then becomes habitual. The man who approves of himself before the world speaks is free from this drain. He listens, but he is not ruled. He considers opinion, but he is not shaped by it. His conduct carries quiet firmness because it is rooted in inner sanction. Others sense this immediately, even if they cannot explain it. Consider how such a person appears in conversation. He does not over-explain. He does not rush to justify himself. He speaks plainly and listens attentively. This manner invites respect because it signals self-trust. People respond differently to those who trust themselves. This practice saves years of life that would otherwise be lost to comparison and self-questioning. A man who constantly measures himself against others never settles into his own work. He wastes time seeking reassurance that should have been established inwardly. Over 10 years, this waste is profound. Over 20, it limits achievement. Over 30, it shapes regret. Self-approval also steadies emotion. Praise does not inflate, and criticism does not devastate. Both are received without disturbance because neither is the source of worth. This emotional balance preserves judgment, especially under pressure. Here is the affirmation that establishes this practice at the beginning of the day. I approve of myself before the world speaks. Speak these words calmly. They are not meant to challenge the world, but to free you from dependence upon it. The subconscious mind accepts authority when it is stated without apology. As this affirmation becomes habitual, you will notice a change in how you move through the day. You hesitate less, you speak with greater clarity, you make decisions without prolonged inner debate. This efficiency restores peace and conserves strength. Those who neglect this practice often believe humility requires self-doubt. It does not. Humility requires honesty. Honest self-approval recognizes both strength and limitation without distortion. It neither exaggerates nor diminishes. When the day begins with self-approval, effort becomes cleaner. You are no longer working to prove worth. You are working to express it. This distinction removes strain from ambition and restores joy to effort. Others will respond to this posture in predictable ways. Some will feel challenged by it. Others will feel reassured. Neither response should concern you. Approval that is inwardly established does not need defense. Begin each day, therefore, having already given yourself permission to act. The world will respond in its own time, but your work will not be delayed while you wait for it. This practice, faithfully applied, preserves years of energy and restores dignity to every effort. I wish now to speak of a quality that has been misunderstood so often that many dismiss it as sentiment, when in truth it is one of the most practical disciplines a person can practice at the beginning of the day. I speak of gratitude for usefulness, not gratitude as emotion, but gratitude as readiness. This distinction is important, for emotion passes, but readiness directs conduct. Most people think of gratitude as something felt after success or relief. Those who live effectively reverse this order. They begin the day grateful for the opportunity to be of use before results appear. This gratitude steadies ambition and gives it direction. It prevents effort from becoming selfish or frantic. I have observed that men who accomplish lasting work began their days conscious of how they might contribute rather than what they might gain. This awareness did not diminish their success. It increased it. Life responds generously to usefulness because usefulness solves problems. Those who solve problems are always needed. A person who awakens grateful for usefulness does not feel burdened by responsibility. He feels prepared for it. Responsibility becomes invitation rather than weight. This shift alone transforms the quality of the day and the way effort is experienced. Others sense this posture immediately. A person oriented toward usefulness listens more attentively. He offers help without display. He speaks with consideration rather than demand. People trust him because they sense his interest is constructive. Trust invites opportunity. Gratitude for usefulness also prevents the waste of comparison. A man focused on contribution does not measure himself constantly against others. He measures himself against the task before him. This focus conserves energy and sharpens skill. Over 10 years, this practice saves countless hours that would otherwise be lost to envy, resentment, or impatience. Over 20, it builds reputation. Over 30, it builds meaning. Many who achieve wealth without usefulness discover too late that something essential was missing. Those who begin with usefulness rarely experience this emptiness. Here is the affirmation that establishes this posture at the beginning of the day. I am grateful for the opportunity to be useful today. Speak it plainly. Let it orient your thought toward contribution rather than reward. The subconscious mind responds by aligning effort with purpose. As this affirmation becomes habitual, mornings feel less demanding. Even difficult tasks feel justified. You are less likely to resist effort because you see its value. Resistance dissolves when usefulness is recognized. Those who neglect this practice often believe gratitude is weakness. In truth, it is alignment. Alignment with usefulness draws cooperation from others and from life itself. People assist those who assist. When the day begins with gratitude for usefulness, peace arises naturally. You are no longer working merely for outcome. You are working for contribution. Contribution sustains effort long after excitement fades. Begin each day, therefore, with gratitude for the chance to be useful. In doing so, you invite purpose to walk beside you, and purpose always brings peace in its company. I wish now to speak of a quality that preserves judgment when pressure arises and keeps peace intact even when demands multiply. This quality is calm maintained regardless of circumstance. Many people believe calm is something that appears only when problems are absent. In truth, calm is a discipline practiced before pressure arrives. Those who wait for conditions to improve before calming the mind rarely experience peace at all. The day does not announce its challenges in advance. They arrive without warning, often in the midst of effort. The person who begins the day resolved to remain calm does not eliminate difficulty, but he prevents difficulty from mastering him. Calm is not indifference, it is control. It is the ability to think clearly when others are reacting. I have observed that men who carried responsibility well were not those without burdens, but those who refused to surrender composure under strain. They understood that agitation clouds judgment and invites error. Calm, on the other hand, sharpens perception and steadies action. One calm decision is worth more than many frantic ones. Others sense this calm almost immediately. A person who remains composed under demand becomes a center of order. Conversations slow in his presence. Decisions feel safer. People rely on him because he does not magnify difficulty through emotion. This reliance brings opportunity and influence without request. Maintaining calm also preserves physical strength. Emotional agitation drains vitality more rapidly than honest labor. A man who reacts all day must later recover from reaction before he can rest. A man who remains calm expends his strength on useful action and rests fully when the day is done. Over 10 years, this practice saves enormous energy. Over 20, it protects health. Over 30, it extends usefulness. Many lives are shortened not by work, but by worry. Calm interrupts this destruction quietly and effectively. To remain calm, regardless of the day's demands, does not mean suppressing feeling. It means governing it. Feelings are permitted to arise, but they are not allowed to rule. This governance is learned through repetition, not force. Here is the affirmation that establishes this discipline at the beginning of the day. I remain calm regardless of the day's demands. Speak these words without tension. Do not challenge the mind. Instruct it. The subconscious mind responds to authority stated quietly. As this affirmation becomes familiar, you will notice that unexpected events disturb you less. You pause before reacting. This pause creates choice. Choice restores power. Power, once restored, preserves peace. Those who neglect this practice often believe calm will come after problems are solved. In truth, problems are often solved because calm was present first. Calm allows intelligence to function without interference. When the day begins with the decision to remain calm, the mind does not scatter when demands appear. It remains centered. From this center, effective action flows naturally. Begin each day, therefore, resolved to guard your calm. It is not weakness, it is strength under control. And strength under control is what carries a person through long days and long years with peace intact. I wish now to bring this series of affirmations to its natural close by speaking of the act that seals the morning and determines whether peace remains throughout the day. This act is the quiet recognition that peace has already been established. Many people believe peace must be earned later, after effort, after resolution, after success. Those who live well understand that peace must be installed first, or it will be absent altogether. When a person finishes the morning believing peace is conditional, he carries tension into every task. He works not from calm, but toward it. This posture keeps peace always out of reach. The man who closes his morning knowing peace is already present moves differently. He does not chase relief. He acts from steadiness. I have observed that men of enduring usefulness guarded this understanding carefully. They did not wait for confirmation before settling their minds. They established peace as a condition, not a reward. Because of this, difficulty did not feel like threat. It felt like material to be worked with. Others sense this immediately. A person who is already settled inwardly does not appear restless. He does not seek reassurance. He does not dramatize pressure. People feel at ease around him because he is not searching for peace through them. This independence of calm invites trust. The closing of the morning is as important as its beginning. Whatever conclusion the mind reaches before action begins tends to govern response until it is replaced. If the conclusion is strain, the day answers strain. If the conclusion is peace, the day answers accordingly. This practice saves more years than any other in this series. A man who postpones peace postpones clarity. He repeats the same emotional cycles day after day, believing life must change first. Over 10 years, this postponement becomes habit. Over 20, it becomes temperament. Over 30, it becomes destiny. To close the morning knowing peace is established does not mean expecting ease. It means expecting composure. Composure allows difficulty to be handled without damage. Damage avoided is time saved. Here is the affirmation that seals the morning and preserves peace. I close this morning knowing peace is already established. Speak these words slowly. Let them feel final. The subconscious mind responds to closure. Closure gives the day a governing tone. As this affirmation becomes habitual, you will notice that peace follows you into activity. It is not shaken by minor disturbance. It is not dependent on success or praise. It remains because it was not borrowed from circumstance. Those who neglect this practice often believe peace is fragile. In truth, peace is resilient when it is chosen deliberately. It is fragile only when it is expected to arrive by chance. When peace is established early, the day unfolds with greater coherence. Decisions align, effort accumulates, fatigue lessens. You end the day with strength remaining rather than depleted. This final affirmation completes the work begun at waking. The mind is commanded, fear is dismissed, time is respected, expectation is ordered. Resistance is dissolved, trust is restored, trouble is refused, self-approval is granted, usefulness is embraced, calm is guarded, and peace is sealed. Begin each day this way, and you will not merely feel better, you will live better. Years once lost to strain will be reclaimed quietly, and life, meeting a mind at peace, will respond with order of its own. I will close this work with a long epilogue, written not to add instruction, but to anchor understanding. What you have read is not a collection of pleasant thoughts for the morning. It is a system of mental economy. If practiced faithfully, it does not merely improve days, it rescues years that would otherwise be lost to strain, reaction, and needless struggle. Most people look back on life and wonder where the time went. They remember being busy, tired, and concerned, yet they struggle to recall sustained peace or clear direction. Time did not disappear. It was spent correcting emotional reactions that never needed to occur. It was spent repairing decisions made under haste. It was spent recovering from fear that had no immediate cause. This is the quiet theft of life. The morning is where this theft begins or where it ends. When a person rises without command of thought, the day begins with surrender. The mind is immediately occupied by yesterday or tomorrow. Fear slips in unnoticed. Hurry disguises itself as responsibility. Peace is postponed. From that moment forward, the individual spends the day reacting instead of directing. Reaction always costs more than direction. You have now seen, step by step, how a different beginning changes everything that follows. Each affirmation was not designed to inspire, but to govern. Together, they form a structure strong enough to carry you through long days and long years without collapse. Let us speak plainly now about the promise that was made, the saving of 10, 20, or even 30 years of your life. Years are not lost all at once. They are lost in fragments, minutes of worry repeated daily, hours of hesitation repeated monthly, days of exhaustion repeated yearly. These fragments accumulate until a decade has passed and little has been built with clarity. The practices you have learned interrupt this accumulation at its source. Consider the man who begins each day in command of his mind. He does not spend his mornings overcoming himself. He does not waste energy fighting dread, resentment, or urgency. His effort moves directly into use. Over 10 years, this alone saves thousands of hours. Consider the man who welcomes the day without fear or hurry. His decisions are cleaner. His errors are fewer. His relationships are steadier. He does not spend evenings repairing what haste damaged in the morning. Over 20 years, this steadiness preserves health, reputation, and opportunity. Consider the man who is at peace with time. He does not live in constant pressure. He does not attempt to crowd life into impossible schedules. He works with rhythm instead of against it. Over 30 years, this cooperation with time preserves vitality and extends usefulness far beyond the average span. Now add the power of expectation, self-approval, trust, calm, and refusal to borrow trouble. Each of these removes a form of waste. Together, they remove nearly all of it. This is why peace is not a luxury. It is an economy. It prevents waste before it occurs. Many people believe that peace makes one less ambitious. The opposite is true. Peace removes friction from ambition. It allows effort to accumulate instead of scattering. A peaceful mind does not abandon goals. It reaches them with less damage along the way. Others will notice this change long before you fully do. They will remark that you seem steadier, that you are easier to work with, that you do not seem rattled by difficulty. Opportunities will arrive not because you demanded them, but because people trust you with them. Trust is attracted to peace instinctively. You will also notice something else, perhaps unexpected. Your days will begin to feel longer. Not because there is more time, but because less of it is wasted in inner conflict. When the mind is orderly, hours stretch. When the mind is strained, hours collapse. At some point, you will look back and realize that entire seasons of worry simply stopped repeating. Situations that once consumed weeks of anxiety were handled in moments. Decisions that once took days of hesitation were made calmly. This is not luck. This is the compound effect of disciplined mornings. There will still be difficulty, there will still be uncertainty. No philosophy worthy of respect promises otherwise, but difficulty will no longer feel personal. Uncertainty will no longer feel threatening. They will be treated as conditions, not verdicts. This alone preserves peace under pressure. It is important that you do not attempt to practice these affirmations with strain. They are not tools to force emotion. They are instructions to establish order. Speak them slowly. Return to them when the mind wanders. Let repetition do its quiet work. If you miss a morning, do not condemn yourself. Condemnation destroys more progress than neglect ever could. Simply return. Return again and again. Repetition, not perfection, is what builds mastery. Over time, you will find that the affirmations no longer feel separate from you. They will become habits of thought. Habits of thought become character. Character determines destiny more reliably than circumstance ever will. And this is where the true saving of life occurs, not in avoiding effort, but in avoiding waste. Not in escaping responsibility, but in carrying it without damage. Not in seeking peace as a reward, but in establishing it as a foundation. When peace becomes the foundation, life builds upon it naturally. The greatest error a person can make is to believe it is too late to begin. It is never too late to stop wasting time. Even 1 year lived with mental order is worth more than 10 lived in confusion. Begin again tomorrow morning, before the world speaks, before memory intrudes, before fear offers its opinion. Begin calmly. Begin deliberately. Begin in command. The years will answer accordingly.